Multicultural Club is very proud to present our speaker for today, Yanitzia Canetti. She's probably the most published author in Spanish in the United States. She has a bachelor's degree in journalism, a master's degree in linguistics, and a PhD in literature. She has written novels, poetry, short stories, and children's stories. She has translated over 200 books like Curious George, Dr. Seuss's books, and so many more. Yanitzia has received many awards, including National Literature Award from the Ministry of Education in Cuba in 1984, 1985, and 1986, the White Rose Literature Award for Best Literature of the Year, and honorable mention at the National Association of Hispanic Publications. So she currently lives in Boston, where she works as an editorial director and literary assessor. Her publications include Auditorium, Completamente Diferente, sorry for my Spanish, and so many more. People magazine selected her as one of the most influential Hispanic women.
Hello everyone, I'm Eva from Brazil. In every student there is a writer, in everyone there is a creative being of the highest caliber. During this growing process, is there a better way to express our feelings and get the attention of our parents, teachers, and friends? Sometimes we find ourselves tied and limited by school programs and school calendars, with strict and unreal rules. We now have to improvise. The aim of this presentation is to break away from the rigidity of writing and provide ways to develop creative writing. Ms. Canetti will share with us her own experience as an author. As she's presenting, think about the answers to these questions. When did she decide to be a writer? What were her first readings? What was her first published book? Where did the ideas come from? What does she plan to write now? What is her greatest ambition when she writes a book? Is it difficult for a writer to publish in Spanish in the United States? It is possible to be a literary assessor for a large publisher, a translator, an editor, and a mother. What is her secret for achieving all of this? How can she inspire all of us to be creative and successful academics? Please put your hands together for Ms. Yanitzia Canetti.
So I would like to share with you my experience as author. I'm hoping it would be interesting for you. So this presentation is about how to be a good reader too, and how to become from a reader to a writer. So you can be an author too, just read. Nice to meet you. Who am I? What I'm doing here? What did this story start? My first reading? My first steps in writing. I'm habanera by birth, a Cuban by conviction, hopelessly Caribbean, Swiss, Italian, and Spanish by heritage, American by choice. So that's answer the question, where are you from? I never know. It's a mix. Who am I? I'm obsessive reader, a slave to writing, very persistent, creative, and hardworking. I have many defects which makes for great writing topics. If I only had virtues, reader could be bored. I have some virtues too. I think the only fact worth mentioning is that I can conquer my own fear by giving my all, even at the risk of losing myself. And that is great to write too. Authors who don't run risks can connect with readers and can write a true story. I enjoy almost everything I do, and I truly do believe in love over everything else. I'm author of some books. I have a sample. I write for adults too, but this is for children books. A translator of other authors like Dr. Seuss, and 5 years ago I translated the only book that Laura Bush had, First Lady. And the best of all, I am the mom of 2 fabulous kids, Ares and Eros. That's my boy. What am I doing here? I'm here to learn because great experiences like this one and your stories of life teach me and inspire me This allows me to add more flavor to my words. I'm here to share my personal story, because my own story could be yours too. Everything is in everything, said wise Anaxagoras. I'm here to share what I have learned during all my years dedicated to literature, creation, and educational materials, and in the book publishing industry. How this story started. My passion for books started as any other relationship of love. First, I hated them. And here it is, the first personal story that I would like to share with you. It's a sad story with a happy ending. Once upon a time, a library. Once upon a time, there was a 19-year-old mother of a 4-year-old little girl. Mom didn't have anybody who would look after her daughter while she was at work, so she had a great idea. She would leave her at a public library. A public library, the biggest in the entire island of Cuba. That's the library. At the beginning, the little girl felt like she was abandoned in a medieval castle. The library was a huge place with never-ending shelves holding books that smelled like a mummy. Mummy? She used to sit quietly on a small chair, making no noise at all, and looking at the books from the corner of her eyes. One day she felt particularly brave and took a thick book from a shelf. It was full of strange marks. They were letters, words, sentences, entire paragraphs. She closed the book abruptly, scared by the sight of what she wasn't able to understand. When is my mom going to pick me up? She thought. Perhaps she forgot all about me. Will she leave me forever in this terrible place? Without toys and siblings, and thanks to a great mother, the girl couldn't help but learning to decipher the secret codes of books. That's the real place in the library. She looked at them, she turned them up and down, left and right. She opened them, closed them, smelled them, touched them. Finally, she placed them back where she found them, frustrated, sick, and tired. Very soon, she started to make a connection between the illustrations and the words around them, and the words she saw in one book with the words in other books. She draws them on blank papers, she combined them with other words and put the letters in different orders. She remembered them and repeated them and played games to discover words in public billboards, trying to find out what they mean. And it was like that, just like that, how she began to imagine, suppose, compare, verify, understand, and finally, she began to read. After realizing she was able to read, she never again felt alone. Furthermore, she discovered that nothing was impossible for her. Because once we awaken our love for books, everything is possible. That's my little boy in the library. She traveled to places she had never been before. She went to the center of the earth and traveled 20,000 leagues in a submarine. She went around the world in 80 days. Spent time in the Treasure Island, I don't know if you know the Treasure Island is in Cuba. It's a little island under the huge island, the real one. Went to Lilliput. And traveled to Wonderland. And went to the Neverland. Today, a library is for her the most wonderful place in the universe. Thanks to the library and the books, that little girl became a writer one day. At the beginning, she used to write awkward poems, short stories with morals, and corny novels. That is, however, how any trade starts, stumbling, failing, learning. Starting with stories invented by others, she created her own stories and shared them with the world. She was trying to return out of the sensualness all the richness that books had given her. They are a book. And in her mind and spirit, she always goes back to those early days in that public library in Havana, and she still feels that sincere embrace of the books. So that's in the middle of the presentation. So my passion, I read this part, so it's inserted in this slide. My first readings were weird books, the biggest one and the oldest one from the library. They were about astronomy, anthropology, and mythology, with 4 years old, 6 years old. When I finally became a normal girl, I started reading classics of children's literature, legends and traditions from all around the world. The entire collection by Salgari and Stevenson Defoe. I also felt a special fascination for Nordic literature about things that I had never seen before in Cuba. Something so weird called snow. As soon as I started writing, I wrote my first great work. According to me, it was a poem. It was a rhyming poem. I was totally fascinated with my first grade teacher, and the poem was for him. It was a funny poem about a bright knight who fights in the night and sighs in the light and rides in the high and does everything right, everything, even flying a kite. Of course, that poem was in Spanish. I'm trying to make an equivalent in English. And then I realized that my first poem was not a poem at all. When I started to be part of a writing workshop, I was 10 years old. There I learned that a literary work was not only a great composition without grammar error or spelling mistakes, but original content expressed in a creative way. I also learned that the only way to write something worthwhile was reading and writing every time, as good as a good habit or routine. I have kept that wonderful routine until today. Are authors born or made? Who can answer that? Help me. Born? Made? Who believes born? Author born. Nowhere? Made? Both? Natural talent versus knowledge. Having a creative talent is a good start. With the gift, you feel the need to communicate something in a creative way. However, talent without technique and knowledge only goes so far. Technique and knowledge are very important too. However, technique, resources, and knowledge of writing and literature without that urgent need to express ideas in a creative way, never goes too far. Having the best paintbrush does not make you paint like Dali, Goya, or Picasso. Where do the stories come from? First I, then you, finally we. Creative writing starts when someone needs to say something right here and now. That something has to impact our five senses. What we are, what we feel, what we know, what we have experienced, what makes us feel fear, what we like, what we love, what we wish for intensely, what we imagine. How do good readers make good writers? Not all good readers become writers, but all good writers were first good readers. Reading is the primary source that feeds a writer. It is your primary reference. This is my incomplete list of my favorite children's books. So maybe you know some of them. Right? Say yes. Okay. In the middle of the crystal of books, which one is the good one? How do you know which one is the good one? Twilight? A good book is not part of the list best books of the world. It's not the book that everybody likes. It's not a bestseller. It's not the one which is especially celebrated in the reviews or professors use more in class. It's not the big one or the most expensive one or the best illustrated or by the most famous author. The best book sparks my interest in reading. It talks about things that interest me. It helps me to understand the world around me. It awakens my imagination and my creative being. It makes me an independent person and it helps me to be ready for life. All kind of reading, so you have read everything. Fiction, it helps us to understand the reality through imaginative references. Non-fiction, it helps us to understand the reality through facts and interesting information. Traditional, fairy tales, legends, myths, fables, riddles, tongue twisters, etc. help us to understand the origin of our perceptions and current vision of life. Biographies, life of others help us to understand our own life and to find inspiration. Theater plays, dramas and comedies allow us to understand that stage to our behaviors in a real context. All kinds of readings from around the world. Myths and legends, Greco-Roman, Indian, Chinese, African and Latin American myths and legends. Fairy tales from different cultures. Mon, you know, Cinderella is not only the Cinderella you know. It's the Mon Cinderella, the African Cinderella, the Arabian Cinderella, so all countries have their own Cinderella. Antique and contemporary literature, universal literature, Polynesian, Eskimo, Tibetan, Pakistani, Swedish, world classics and the modern version. What makes a story last? A simple way to narrate. Content revives objects and then through the sensory data, color, shape, smell, texture, taste. So if you can describe everything that you experience with your five senses, it's a good beginning. What makes a story last? Confrontation between the good and evil. The fate is contrasted with adversity, happiness with unhappiness, success with failure, element which the protagonist is always about to have everything and also about to lose everything. A story that awakens in readers not sentimentality but sensitivity. Adventure in fantastic places. An island, a garden, a forest. Even when they evoke distant or inaccessible spaces, they are still connected with reality, with certain universal realities and grow, make decisions, etc., and also with the future. Character forced to travel to or spend the path of his own discovery, separation from their parents to get their independence, the search for themselves in an unknown and adverse world. As an anticipation of their adult life, heroes learn to make their own decisions, sometimes imposing their own opinion against the group. Topics around identity. growth, security, relationship with others, the process of adjustment to the world outside, and their own evolution towards maturity. Where the ideas come from? Help me with that too. Where the ideas come from?
Experiences.
Great. Well, come on, ideas come from imagination. What else? Your ideas, where come from?
Reading.
Reading? Great. Let's see. So, you're right. The story behind the story. In my personal case, every idea came from personal experience. In every story I have published, there is a secret story behind the story. For example, my boy. This is my boy. Now he's 15 years old. He's in high school too. And this story, I wrote this story when he was 5 years old. And I started because I live in Andover. In his school, when he started kindergarten, everybody has long hair, except him, in his classroom. And one day he said, "Mommy, I don't love you." He said, "Wow." I said, "Well, let me try to be cool." Oh, that's normal. Sometimes, you don't love your mom. But I don't love you at all. I said, "Oops." So why? I say, because of you, I'm completely different. I have black hair. I said, "Wow." And everybody in my classroom has blonde hair. I say, "Wow, but that's cool. You are unique. You are the only one with different, hair. So that's cool. So thanks to me, you are the coolest in your classroom." So I changed the story, and I wrote this story for him. It's about a hippopotamus that is blue, fat, ugly, the only one in the Nile River, and she feels totally different. But finally, she found a lot of animals, different animals, snakes and elephants, and they are separating from her because she's totally different. So at the end, she found a little fish that is completely different. And he said, we can play together because you are a fish, you are in the water, I'm outside, I'm blue, you are yellow. But the fish said, "Hey, why we don't try to find the things that we are the same?" I say, "Well, both are animals. Both of us live here around the Nile. Both of us, so they're trying to find both of us have a color. It's not the same one, but we have a color. Both of us have a size. It's not the same one, but at least we have a size." So they're trying to find the things that is the same, and finally say, "Hey, come on!" And the only that we need is both of us want to play. So what else? So that's the point of the story. A little bit more is about my older boy. This is Eros. And again, he believes he's not able to do anything because he's just so little. So my approach to it, it's just little. Everybody can do something better than me. And he said, "Yeah, but that little thing makes the difference. Could make the difference." So I wrote this story about a huge elephant that he fell down, and a lot of animals trying to push him up. And finally, more and more animals, the zebra, the penguin, a lot of animals, and finally a little ant was the difference. That little bit things that, make the difference. Prince Charming is about Ares again. One day he came and said, "Mommy, I have a girlfriend." He said, "Wow." Was like I was 12 years old. And he said, "Is she beautiful or, what did you find about her?" I said, "No, just made me laugh, and she laughed at my jokes, that's it." So I made this story, I wrote this story because, that's the girl, that's the real one, the girl that laughed, everything that he said, she laughed, so just for that. So I created this story about the Prince Charming. Miss Flautina solved it all, of course in Spanish, the original book. It's about my grandma that made everything without anything. In Cuba, we don't have all the machines we have here, like the microwave and everything open. So she resolved all the problems without any resource, just with this. So I created this story for her. The boy who never lost it's about my little one. One day he was so serious for Mom. He doesn't want to laugh at all. We tried everything, nothing. And finally, one person came to my house, a little girl, and was serious like him. I said, well, you are for her, it's for you. Everybody's serious here. And finally, they saw each other and started to laugh, and both of them doesn't have teeth, and that was the real reason. So finally, they laugh about each other. So it's about that. We tried everything. Finally, a little girl like him made him laugh. What a huge family is about my immigrant family in Florida, Miami. You know, a lot of Cubans there. So at the beginning, a lonely girl goes in, say, yes, I want my family here. You know, I miss them. I'm alone here in this country. I want. So they start to fill the house. So came the cousin, the uncle, the aunts, everybody. So at the end, they don't have the space in their own house because a lot of people is there. So it's a huge family. But you have to read the story. It's in English too, this story. A wonderful umbrella is I crashed an umbrella. So my little one said, Mommy, but we can make a lot of things with this umbrella still. We can make. So he tried to find a lot of things that he can make with this umbrella. So it's a marvelous umbrella because we made clothes and everything with that umbrella. Alone like a dog, you can imagine, is my dog. It's the story of my dog. So it's a really sad story, but it's good. Make a wish to the moon. My little one, Eros, because he mixed English and Spanish, he said instead of Luna, you know Luna is in Spanish, right? Luna, and in English moon, so he created the word Muna, both words. So he said, Mommy, I want to make a wish to the Muna. So I created this story about to make a wish. It's about different animals trying to be different. So a little pig wants to be a cow. A cow wants to be a frog. A frog wants to be another animal. So they want to change. They are not happy with themselves. And at the end, in the morning, the farmer say, wow, everything here is the same. You know, nothing changed. Because they change, but you know, for the farmer, he has to still have a cow and all the animals. Except the rooster. He wants to be the same rooster, but better. So it's the story about this one. And he's the only one that really changed. Once upon another time, it's like the ugly, instead of the sleeping beauty, the sleeping ugly, I don't know how to say this. Instead of el patito feo, what's that? Ugly, is the opposite, is the beautiful. And instead of Snow White is from Africa, and it's totally different. And it's instead of seven little guys, it's gigantic guys. Instead of Cinderella, it's Cinderella. Instead of the long hair of Rapunzel, she's tall. She doesn't have hair. Instead, Pinocchio is another story. Aladdin and the horrible lamp. And red, Caperucita Roja. Red, what's that? That one is not red, it's like without color. And she's not instead of cross the forest, she crossed the desert. And she's from Tijuana. And instead of a wolf, it's a coyote. So it's a cool story, very modern. Now, you can find application with those books. They are studying small cartoons in Spain with those books. And it's translated to 20 languages right now. So maybe you can find them in English too. The short way to those topics. I wrote this story again for my boy. And it's with the crisis, economic crisis, I'm trying to explain them to my kids that things could be changed. Like we can lose the house, the job, and everything. So what we can do in this when times are tough. And it's now Scholastic published these books, and it's available in English too. How to become a good reader. Books have to be always closed. A book must be an object inside, as valuable as the best household object. Open it, touch it, see it, smell it, and taste it. A book is much more than it seems. Do not let anyone explain it to you. Find it out by yourself. That's Eros, the little one, in the crib and the floor of my office. And this is Ares. Create a special place to read. At home or outside, find that unique corner or your favorite spot to enjoy a good book. Like a super sofa, cozy cardboard box, or any other place you like. Is your special place to read. On the street, read a story to someone else. Enjoy the circle that generates effective storytelling, interact and exchange ideas. Feel that you influence someone else positively, which also positively influences you. How to become a good reader. Have a bookcase at home. Besides furniture, a house is not complete without a bookcase. I suppose everybody has a bookcase at home, right? Yeah. Books attract books. They are magnets for reading. How to become a good reader. Infect others with healthy habits. People often imitate behaviors, must repeat it around them. They do what they see. Read in front of everyone with determination. Sooner or later, they will begin to imitate your good habit, so you will be a good influence to others. A bottle of water, a cell phone, and a book. Don't miss a book for the road. A book is ideal while waiting your turn at the doctor, or when you have to go to a bored place, or when you have to wait in a long line, and the best is that you never run out of battery. Let a book in the car. During long trips, a book will help us to make them short and fun, especially when the traffic is terrible. That's my boy, Eros. Read independently is a pleasure as reading in pair or group. Is the opportunity to comment on the characters or situation that everybody loves. Reading together makes us part of a team or a reading club. That's cool. Local library is great. The atmosphere of a library is unique and it has to a certain mystery. There you find people who are also interested in books, interesting people without complexes. You can get free tickets to many places and you can know about contests and other good news. Everything is available for free, thus always win. Need a better reason? Go to the bookstore. A bookstore contains the implicit promise of valuable gifts, and therefore they will not only find the book you are crazy about, but one that you want to treat someone special. Through the title or subject of the book, you can be sending a message in code to the special person. It's a good idea if you don't know how to say something to that girl or that boy, buy the book. How to become a good writer. Writers are born in bookland. All great writers, even those who have few opportunities for education, complain they couldn't stop reading at one stage of their lives. There are many other factors that may help a person become a writer, but none as critical as reading. You have the power of reading, and reading gives you power. Thank you so much.
Questions? This is your time to ask questions right now. We still have time to go, so please ask any questions you have. Anybody? Come on, I know it's Monday morning, but I'm sure we have some questions out there.
Yes, I have like 5 novels, poetry, plays. I published over 300 books here in the US. Excuse me?
Pues voy a
have a lot of favorite ones. Maybe I usually say The Little Prince for children books. You say Robinson Crusoe. I love Robinson Crusoe. It's a lot. Hard. The list that I mentioned isn't completely depend on my mood. I said something, but Little Prince is a good one.
I have a question. How long does it take to write a book?
For my first novel, it took me 7 years. The second novel, 1 year. The third novel, it depends on the topic of the novel. But that one was 7 years. It was the long one. And for children books, depends. Sometimes, for example, this whole collection, Once Another Time, was in 1 week. And it's the bestseller. Like Miss Paulina is like a 20th edition. But depend on the book.
Any other questions out there? Yeah.
Can you talk a little bit about that first book that you got published? What was the process? How did you get it published?
First one? Okay, first of all, let me tell you, I have here in Lawrence, a publishing company, for 20 years. No one knows that. We started working with the most important publishing company here in the US, like Pearson Education, Houghton Mifflin, Scholastic, McGraw-Hill. And my team developed the material, the educational material for those companies. But, in the other part, we publish books from authors around the world. But I publish with other companies in Spain and US, like Random House, HarperCollins. It's usually the process, the ideal process is to send the manuscript to the publishing company with a proposal, or to find an agent that is not a representative person, it's an agent who usually is like the broker, it's in the middle between the publishing company and the author. And it's the best if you want to start, to publish, it's the best recommendation is to find an agent because you don't know nothing about contracts and royalties. So now I don't have, it's a good start to find an agent. And you have to send a proposal that is, if you can find that in any place in internet, you put proposal to send a book or the guidelines. Each publishing company have their own guidelines. Find the guidelines, read everything because you don't want to send something and then, maybe you have a poetry book, but that publishing company that you send that book doesn't publish poetry. So you have to know what kind of literature they are interested in publishing. So then they send you the process depends. It's the ideal process. Right now it's really, really hard to publish in the traditional way. There exist other ways, alternatives that like the same like musicians. They are now selling their own production in digital and MP3 and Apple. It's the same with books. You can submit that, create a space in Amazon, or find another alternative to publish. Self-publishing is not my favorite, but you can find other kind of coalitions or other ways to publish the book. But the first is if you have a good book, a good work is the first.
Is it easier to write your own stories or to translate other stories? Is it?
Wow. Okay. For me, writing is a natural process. I read, I write. It's impossible. I have to write. But translation sometimes is a challenge. It's not my first language, and thank God it's too part of my brain, so I'm better translating than talking. But for example, Dr. Seuss. How can you translate Dr. Seuss? It's a huge challenge. So my process is, let me think I'm Dr. Seuss. If I'm Dr. Seuss and I'm Hispanic Dr. Seuss, how can I create the stories from arena? So for example, this famous, there is a wallet in my pocket, there's a wallet in my pocket, that one. It's impossible to translate that in Spanish because it's a word that he creates. So I'm trying to find a word that rhymes with bolsillo, that is the word in Spanish, so I create, hay un bolillo en mi bolsillo. So I'm trying to make that funny game of, with words, and how the Grinch stole Christmas and Horton, all those books. I'm trying to believe I'm Dr. Seuss, so I'm trying to find the equivalent in Spanish.
Do you think that like when you have a Kindle like technology and the book is on Kindle, or do you think it's better than you have the actual book in your hand? In English or Spanish? Do you think that kids, young, like I have a 6-year-old, do better with, like if they have a Kindle, a computer, and they're reading, or the actual book? What do you think is better?
For me, the better is reading. I support is just with the pages. It's like a format can change. Ideas, it's a idea. So for me, if they read in a stone, like Egyptian people, it's okay. They have to read. They have to have this connection with reading, with knowledge. Anyway, it's good. Even audiobooks. For example, my boy has dyslexia. So for him, it's better audiobooks. Cool. For me, if you have this connection and with fiction and non-fiction stories, it's okay. Some people prefer the book because you can go again. You don't need battery. You don't have to charge that. Some people prefer the tablet or the iPhone because I have everything there. So for me, it's the same. I have my book in paper. Sometimes I use my iPad or iPhone. Depends. It's good. And let him read. Just that. Who wants to be a writer here? An author? No one confess?
One writer over there, 2 writers.
Okay, just let me know. We have an international book fair here in Lawrence, and this year we are planning to invite a very, very famous author, so Eva Des. She came from France, and maybe she wrote a book, Adamari Lopez. You know her? You know her? She will come in October to present her book too. So it's a good chance to share with authors. A lot of people, the editor of People, People magazine, he will come too, so you are invited. The biggest challenge that people read the story. She's asking me about what is the biggest challenge to write a book. For me, if you write the best book for myself and it's not interesting for you, nothing, The most important is share the book. That means publish, share the book. So if I write the best story for me, that is great, incredible, usually authors start talking about their own experience. So maybe it's really, really good story for yourself, but it's not a good story for someone else. So you have to connect with the readers. So that's the challenge, the real challenge to write.
Your native language is in Spanish, right? Okay. So do you still think in Spanish and write in English, or do you start your books all in Spanish and then translate?
Good question too. I don't translate my own books. I'm terrible doing that. So I write in Spanish. That's my natural tongue, so of course. And someone else translate my books in other languages. Croatian, Chinese, it's available Chinese too, some of my books. But if it's to translate, if it's something that I need to write in English originally, I never think in Spanish. I think naturally in English because it's totally different. Short words, it's more musical, it's different. In Spanish, I need more adjectives to express myself. In English, I have to be direct, different, totally different.
Okay, we still have a few minutes to ask any more questions. Yes.
Well, there's a lot of interesting things going on. Like you mentioned the book fair, and there's also a lot of poetry readings and things like that. How do you find out about these events? Like, how can a regular person come and do it? Just on their website or on the Lawrence website?
Local event. That's hard for me too. So local events, let me know. You know, I know about this book fair because someone contacted me, like a literary assessor for this event. So I'm working volunteer, for this event because I need this. Mary Magari needs that. But usually you have to. It's hard to find that. I think the public library is a good resource. Again, people think it's a boring place with books and old ladies working, cranky maybe, or maybe so sweet and honey, and it's boring. But for me, it's a good place, depend on you. It's a good place to find someone because it's alone there, even if it's for, contact. If you want to find a good person, you don't want the good person. You don't want to find it in a club. You want to find it in a good place. So usually it's that people believe in a church, maybe, or in a library for me, in my case. So I can find people interested in a library. It's the same in a university. You find interesting people. People that is interested in education. Probably someone that could be successful in any field. So library is good because they have a list of concerts, activities, usually newspaper, I don't know, internet, you find local activities, probably.
Have you traveled back to Cuba?
I come back to Cuba in the past, every 2 years now. 4 years. I have family there. You see my family. I have 2 brothers and a sister. My dad. My family live there, so it's hard for me to travel there. First, because it's expensive. Second, is because you have. It's hard to connect with the people when you emigrate. Probably you know about that. In the moment you realize that's not the country that you abandoned, it's not the same one, and the people there don't understand. You are not totally part of here, even if you want, so that identity, you have to connect with your own identity and to find your own country that is yourself. So I realized I have my own country, myself first, and then I can be part of any country.
Thank you. Anybody else? Any other questions? To be about it?
Do your son speak Spanish? And if so, how important is that?
Good. They speak. Okay, they say la mapa. They still say la mapa instead el mapa. My little boy changed the article. Usually, the first language for them was English in the daycare. We speak Spanish and Italian at home. So they can speak and understand everything. And sometimes I say, what did you say? I don't understand you in English, just to force him to speak Spanish. But it's better to speak 2 languages, of course. It's your advantage in this country, right? Everybody speaks English, so let me have an advantage. So let me speak 2, 3 languages. Actually, I have a publishing company. I sometimes have positions for my company. And the first thing that I check in a resume is how many languages that person speaks. I need that. So if he's the best person graduated in Harvard, but speaks just 1 language, it's not enough for me. In this global world, you need to speak at least 2 languages, at least, minimum. So.
Anybody else? Yes. We're gonna wrap things up. Thank you so much, Yanitzia, for coming in today.